You guys know that I am a huge horror fan in the horror, video game genre, as well as even with movies, guys. I love horror movies, love horror games, guys. And so I thought that, one of the videos that I've wanted to make for a while is what is the scariest video game of all time. And look, guys, I'm going to give you my top five, like the 5 games that are absolutely terrifying in my opinion. And this is consistently evolving as new games come out and such, guys. This list is subject to change over time. But with that, I wanted to give you guys what I believe is the scariest video game of all time, guys. And so we got to kind of go back here. We'll start with number 5 and go all the way to number 1. And so let me know, though, guys, in the comment section down below, what are your guys' scariest games that you've ever played? If you're a big fan of horror games, what would you say is the scariest game you've ever played? And obviously, guys, all of our lists are going to be different. It's all based upon our experience within them. And some of these guys that I'm going to give you are more so a series versus that of one individual game. I'll try to give you one individual game, but with that, let's get started here. So coming in at number 5 for me, guys, is none other than Dead Space. Dead Space, guys, this is a game, third-person shooter, horror game, and I'm going to say at least the first 2. I would say the second one, in my opinion, is a little bit more creepy than the first one, but absolutely terrifying experience, guys, by yourself, Isaac Clarke, moving throughout the ship and such, and some terrifying experiences. I gotta say, one of the scariest things about this was just the environment that they made. These very claustrophobic hallways they made. You'll be like walking down like some hallway or another with like very creepy music in the background, and you turn around and and there's something behind you that's creeping up on you, like a necromorph is creeping up behind you or something. Absolutely terrifying experience at times, guys, especially playing it at night. Just really creepy. Playing it at night by yourself, guys, it was a very creepy experience, but at the same time, it was such a good experience. The first 2 Dead Space games especially are classics, in my opinion, when it comes to the horror genre as a whole in video games. Definitely at number 5. Coming in at number 4 for me, guys, is the Fear franchise, that being more so than not the first couple of Fear games, guys. This was a first-person shooter horror game, and this one had some very psychological elements to it, which kind of made this a really terrifying experience as well. And there were very, very disturbing images at points throughout each of these games, and I thought that the second one really elevated, some of the horror elements that the first one kind of started. First Encounter Assault Recon is what Fear stands for, guys, and let me tell you that going into this game, I didn't really expect it, that being the first game. I thought, yeah, there's maybe some creepy elements to it, but it's going to be mainly a shooter. No, it was more so having these horror, like overarching, it's a horror game with, shooter elements to it and action elements to it. And so that it was just a absolutely terrifying experience throughout different points throughout the story. And I gotta say, guys, it's definitely worth playing at least the first 2, but I would even play all 3 of them, guys. We've talked on the YouTube channel here about the continuation of the Fear franchise as well as the continuation of the Dead Space franchise. And for those guys in those videos, if you're interested in those, you can check those out here on the YouTube channel. Coming in at number 3 for me, guys, was Alien Isolation. And some of you may agree, some of you may disagree where this lies on my list, but Alien Isolation, guys, essentially is you yourself as one of the, I forget what the character's name was in the game. However, you're playing, a woman who's on a ship by herself with an alien. So she's the last remaining survivor, and you're trying to escape the ship. And the entire premise of this is built around intense horror elements. And let me tell you guys, that was another terrifying experience. The alien at times is not stupid, can certainly find you, and it is in terrifying ways. Whether you're hiding in a locker or you're hiding underneath or in some type of crawl space, the alien is always somewhere or another. And you can't just kill the alien. It's not like one of those things where you can just shoot the alien. You have have to be strategic about where you're going in relation to where the alien is. And the alien is much smarter than you think, which makes it an absolutely terrifying experience, at least for me, at the very least. And play it, guys. If you're big into horror games, play it. Coming in at number 2 for me, guys, is the Silent Hill franchise as a whole. I've got to say that Silent Hill 2 was a absolutely, terrifying experience, but there's been a number of them. A lot of people didn't like Silent Hill Homecoming. They didn't like Downpour. I enjoyed those ones as well. They definitely had some very creepy elements to them as well. But this as a whole, this franchise as a whole, guys, was built around horror. And it's pretty much stayed that way from the beginning of the time that this series has started. Built around this horror-esque kind of game where you're with exploration, solving puzzles, and things of that nature. There's always something creepy lurking around the door, around the hall, or, underneath you, above you. There's always something that is there to give you jump scares, and while you're also trying to uncover mysteries and trying to figure out ways to escape in such different places. It's a very unnerving experience, I will say, guys. And so I would say that there's at least a few of these games I would put on, my number 2 within the Silent Hill franchise as a whole. I just think it's a terrifying series as a whole. I really hope, guys, and we've talked about this on the YouTube channel a number of times, about the continuation of Silent Hill. Hideo Kojima potentially coming to this franchise to finish what he started with Silent Hills. I absolutely hope that is something that's going to happen in the future, because I believe that his take on this could be one of the scariest games of all time. Moving into number 1, guys, look, I will say that Resident Evil as a whole, guys, is a very good franchise. However, one stands beyond the rest in a wide margin. Unlike Silent Hill, Resident Evil has had a number of games that have had very creepy elements to it. But Resident Evil 7 Biohazard is the creepiest game that I've ever played. It's absolutely, guys, in my opinion, the scariest game ever made at this point. From, just those claustrophobic feelings and, the feeling of being helpless, having nothing really at your disposal to take out different enemies and such, and just the scares that lie around the corner from the very beginning of the game. Once you walk into the house, throughout the course of the entire game, guys, it is one jump scare after another, with a story that is unlike any I've played in the horror genre as a whole. An incredible story leading us to Resident Evil Village, which is going to be coming out, and I'm incredibly excited about the follow-up here. However, Resident Evil Village doesn't look like it's going to be quite as scary as Biohazard. But they've even said, though, that being Capcom, that it's going to have more action elements than that of like horror elements, which is fine. But the reason why Biohazard is above the rest, guys, is because Resident Evil as a whole has had games within it that are more action over horror. They've had other games that are, horror over action. And obviously Resident Evil is another one of those franchises that has, being able to solve puzzles and figure out like what you've got to do to escape different places, whether it's a police station or somewhere else. Being able to escape and do all of that is important, but there's always something lying somewhere or another. Even Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, there's always things that make this series just creepy. And over the course of time, it's turned a little bit more into action over horror, but they've still kept it somewhat grounded in horror, even though they've had more action elements at times. But Resident Evil 7, guys, if you want something scary, I would say try it out. Check out Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. I would recommend just playing all of the Silent Hill games. I would recommend playing all of the Resident Evil games, guys. And if you have like the, of course, the next-gen hardware, playing the Resident Evil 2 remake, Resident Evil 3 remake. These are incredible experiences, guys, that you should absolutely want to play. That they do a really good job of building up tension, having some puzzles and things of that nature that you have to solve. And there's an underlying mystery and psychological elements with in a major way with Resident Evil 7. 7 Biohazard, which looks like it's going to be coming into Resident Evil Village as well. Psychological elements and a significant amount of mystery to it, which overall, guys, when we talk about the scariest game of all time, I like talking about the entirety, the story, the scares. What is it that makes a game creepy, and the tension and the environment that they built in Resident Evil Biohazard is unlike any I've ever played in a video game. But with that, guys, let me know, what are your top, scariest games of all time that you've played? What would you say is the scariest game of all time in your personal opinion? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more videos like this, guys, stay here with Zero TV.